Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Row of Gilead here with some breaking news, some exciting stuff going on in Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth today. They finally announced the Glyph system. We've got tons of details, how it works, how we're going to achieve these glyphs, how we're going to upgrade the glyphs, how they work with your character level, how they're going to affect your strategy. I see us making a lot of videos about this in the coming weeks, so let's buckle in and get right down to business, shall we? So glyphs, if you're not familiar with mobile gaming, this is kind of like your mod system in other mobile games. If you are familiar with mobile gaming, if you're not, this is going to be a way for you to customize your character's stats and abilities a little bit in ways that are going to give you a competitive advantage, whether that be for the raid, whether that be in the arena, and their future multi-squad PvP. Glyphs are going to be a huge, huge deal. And understanding and building the right glyphs early and coming up with the right strategies early on is going to be super duper beneficial to making sure that your roster and your teams perform the best that they possibly can. So how this video is going to break down today, we're going to go through the post, kind of read it section by section. I'm going to give some insights, some deeper thoughts into what this means for the game, certain teams, just point out some basic strategy tips, and then of course we'll expand on all of that in future videos. So jumping right into it, greetings ring bearers. Soon we'll be launching the new feature in Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth, Glyphs. Glyphs introduce a new method to augment and tweak your characters and squads. They give you the ability to adjust individual attributes to play to strengths and synergy and stats, and customize a team to fit your strategy. By using glyphs, each player will be able to differentiate their characters the way they want to, making them unique and tailored to that player's strategy and play style. So this is a little preview of what the relics look like per each character. We'll get to that here in a second, and a little tease in as to how these glyphs are going to be set. We're going to come back to this graphic a couple times. This is going to be pretty important as far as understanding how glyphs work, where their placement goes, and how that's going to benefit your roster. But moving ahead, glyphs are items that grant powerful stats and passive effects, allowing customization of units on the battlefield. Players can imbue glyphs onto characters' unique relics. Relics are personal, meaningful objects worthy of imbuement, defined per character. Each relic has 6 slots for glyphs, and each having a unique shape that corresponds to a glyph's shape. So you'll have ones for axes and different things, and those will give you other bonuses as we get into the deeper parts of this. Glyphs are unlocked at player level 25, so very attainable. Most people will get to glyphs in their first week, and can only be used by characters who have also been leveled to 25. Also crazy simple. While there is no cost to place a glyph, which is very important, no cost to place a glyph, there is a gold cost to remove a glyph once socketed if it is higher than level 1. So once you set a glyph, you're going to want to kind of make sure that you're not always removing it, because that's going to cost you a lot of gold. And as we know from playing Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth, gold is a very, very valuable resource. Now, this starts to get into the meat and potatoes of this, the Glyph Sets. There are 2 sets that grant powerful bonuses. Glyphs of all 6 shapes can be found for each set. From a high level, there are 2 categories of sets. So like from a top-down view, there's Major, inscribed with the Tengwar script, and these require 4 to activate their special effect. And then Minor glyphs, inscribed with Kirth script, hopefully that didn't sound too bad on the microphone, requires 2 of each to activate. When activated, glyph sets grant... Oh, you can scroll up, let you watch this cool animation. When activated, glyph sets grant a unique set bonus. Set bonuses for major sets are significantly more powerful than set bonuses granted for minor sets. Players will also be able to see that set bonuses are being provided to each character in battle. At most, a single character could be equipped with 1 major set and 1 minor set, so a set of 4 and a set of 2, or 3 minor sets, and these stat bonuses do stack, and that's going to come into kind of important note when we actually get into what these glyphs are going to do for you. Let's see. These are the initial glyph sets. They're pretty strong. I think they might roll some of these back a little bit, but let's jump right in with the major set. So again, for each of these special abilities, you're going to have 4 glyphs of this set equipped, right? So you have to have 4 of this Lembas, 4 of this Last Stand. But jumping right in, first one, the Lembas major set. Each encounter, recover 1 stamina and a random ability at the start of the encounter, and for the first time each ability is used. So what that basically means is that you're going to get 4 extra stamina to random abilities on that character The first one you get as the encounter starts, so you start off with a bonus stamina to one of your abilities, and then for each time you use an ability, so your basic, your special 1, your special 2, for the first time you use each of those, you're going to get one random ability energy into a different random attack, so that's pretty neat. The second one, Last Stand. Each encounter, the first time this character falls below 25% health, gain 100% turn meter, dispel 3 Banes, and gain 1 stamina in a random ability. Now, this doesn't give you the unbreakable buff that allows you, or boon, that allows you to survive a hit. However, this is going to pair really well with teams that do have that. So, or teams that have ways to dodge out of hits when they're low on health. So I see this being pretty important for the Herodrum, seeing as they all get that Last Stand mechanic anyway with that unbreakable Bane. And then on top of that, when that happens to each of them, they're going to gain 100% turn meter, dispel 3 of the Banes that are on them, and gain a stamina to a random ability. So that'll be super strong for teams like that. Road to Rivendell also comes to mind with all of the nimble that's going on that team, being able to, get Sam really low, boost up his health and his abilities a little bit, give him 100% turn meter, and then, so basically he goes next, and then he can taunt, he can heal, he's got his nimbles. This is going to be a fun one. Vitality is the third of the 4. Whenever this character is critically hit and has fewer than 3 stacks of regeneration, gain 1 stack of regeneration for 1 turn. So as long as they don't already have 3 stacks of regen, whenever they take a crit, they get a stack of regen. This could be great for keeping certain squishier characters alive that have lower critical hit defense, which is pretty neat. It could also be used for teams that thrive on boons, like Rivendell. Just having that constant regeneration out there, having it boons extended by Elrond. That could go even further to keep a team alive that is already really beefy and easy to stay alive with. Finally, last major set, Withering. When this character inflicts a Bane on their turn, they deal 15% true damage, limit once per target. So true damage is damage that cannot be blocked, or it cannot crit, but it cannot be blocked, and it ignores armor and vulnerability. So that's very important to note. Withering, again, this is another one I could see with Bane-heavy teams such as Isengard or Herodrum. They're going to inflict a lot of Banes, and when they do that for the first time, they're going to deal 15% true damage. So that's pretty neat. So that's the 4 major sets. Again, the major sets, they have these big abilities, but it requires 4 of your 6 slots to use them. So moving ahead to the minor sets, now these are the ones that require 2 each. We have 5 runes here, and some of these are pretty self-explanatory. Some of them you got to think a little bit. Bloodlust is our first one. Whenever this character defeats an enemy, they gain 30% turn meter. So you get a third of your turn meter bar back anytime that unit kills an enemy. And this stacks, which I'm interested to see how this stacks, if it stacks 30, 60, 90. Because if it stacks 30, 60, 90, that's gross. What I suspect will happen is this will be something along the lines of diminishing returns, where you get 30% the first time for the first set, maybe 15% for the second, and 10% for the third, or 5% for the third. That way it adds up to something more reasonable, like 45 to 50% turn meter, instead of every time that player kills somebody you get 100% turn meter. But this might be super, super useful. And it might be stackable, like if you defeat multiple enemies in a turn, like if you have Strider pop off with an AoE and he gets 3 enemies down, he gets 90% turn meter, that could be nasty. So, and again, that's only 2 each. We'll have to see how the stacking works out for the turn meter percent gain. I think this one might be the most broken one in the whole set, if I'm being honest. But again, we'll have to see how it plays out. Everything else so far has seemed very reasonable. Lifestealer, gain 2% lifesteal. And again, you can stack these. So if you have 3 sets of the minor ones, you can get 6% lifesteal per hit. Raider is our third one. Deal 2% more damage against enemies with more than 50% health. I see this being something used on AoE attackers a lot, where they're going to hit lots of enemies. They're going to be able to deal a little bonus damage and get them to that 50% health mark faster so you can capitalize with other units. Just a thought. I don't see this one being super prevalent. Maybe in raids you'll see this a little bit more with like the whole Chapter 1, Chapter 3 mechanic in the Mines of Moria. This could be pretty useful. Shield Wall, this one's pretty fun too. When this character has Taunt or Provoke, they take 3% less damage. So again, you can stack this up on your Taunts and Provoke style characters like Eladan and Eothane and Gimli, And if you put 3 stacks of this on there, they're going to get 9% less damage whenever they have Taunt or Provoke, which, let's be honest, is pretty much always. So, just something to keep in mind when looking at that glyph. And then the final one for the miners is Armor Piercer. Gain 2% armor piercing. And again, you can stack that up to 6% if you choose to do that with all 3 of your glyphs. Now, logic dictates once you unlock a major set, you're going to have 1 major set and a minor set on each character. And we'll go into some of the synergies in another video, but some of them are kind of self-explanatory. Things like you could pair Last Stand with something like Life Stealer or, Armor Piercer. So this way you're getting out of that. You're hitting even harder. There's ways you can buff these things around, and we're going to talk about them in some future content. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of theorize and strategize and put them with some teams and see where this is going. Moving on ahead. In addition to set bonuses, glyphs have both a single primary stat and up to 4 secondary stats. Each glyph shape dictates which primary stats are available to it. Primary stats directly add to the stats of the unit, whereas secondary stats are a percent increase multiplied after all other bonuses have been added, except for the speed secondary stat. That is going to be a flat value as opposed to being multiplied, and it's also going to get added as opposed to multiplied. So it's flat value instead of a percentage, and it's going to be added instead of multiplied. And we'll talk about speed a little bit at the end because it is pretty important. Now, if you look here, primary stats, 1 per slot. And we're going to actually pop over to Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes in a minute so I can kind of show everyone what this looks like in practice, because this can be kind of confusing. So basically, in slot 1, you can only have a health primary stat, right? That's the only glyphs that'll fit there. And if we go back up here, you'll be able to see that slot 1 is right here, the first one on the left. And it's going to kind of arc its way across and then like a circle fully clockwise. So starting with 1 in the top left, 2 in the top middle, 3 in the top right, 4, 5, 6 as you go across the bottom. Okay, clockwise is our mental image here, okay? Now, going back to that, slot 2 will only have damage as a primary stat, and slot 3 will only have armor. So every single character, slot 1, 2, and 3, the glyphs with the primary stats there, it's going to be health in slot 1, damage in slot 2, armor in slot 3. Slots 4, 5, and 6, on the other hand, will have varying primary stats. So they could be health, damage, armor, focus for slot 4, health, damage, armor, or resistance for slot 5, and then health, damage, armor, focus, or resistance for slot 6. So slot 6 is the most versatile, and then obviously your first 3, they want to kind of set a standard bar. Usually in games like Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, those are also the easier mods to farm. So you're going to hit these and have them ready by the time you're getting more of these that you want. Now, secondary stat values are going to have up to 4 per glyph. And I think this is the time where we're going to hop over to Galaxy of Heroes really fast so you can see what this looks like in practice. Oop, I'm going to have to wake up my app. I got to draw my thingy. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, so going back to Galaxy of Heroes. So we're on my Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. Okay, we're going to go back to him real quick here. So you can kind of see what his character screen looks like. And this is, in the top right here, is the mods section for Star Wars Galaxy Heroes. And we're going to have something a little similar. It'll probably be a separate screen by the looks of things. You'll click on the character's relic, and it's going to open up a screen similar to this. Okay, now on the right you have all of your stats and everything else where your current character currently sits. But that's not really what we're worried about. Let's look at a mod, and this is going to show you how a glyph works. So when we were talking about the primary stats just a moment ago, that's referring to this stat up here on the top, okay? And again, certain ones are only going to have certain stats. So in Galaxy Heroes, this top left one is always offense, this bottom left one is always defense, and then the other 4 have a variety of primaries, such as this one has speed, this one has crit damage. But we're focusing on this one, which has 5.8% offense, okay? Now, these secondary stats are what they're talking about, and we're going to flip back here. That's what they're talking about on these stat pages that we go back. So these primary stats are the stats above the line, okay? Secondary stats are going to be the stats below the line. And the stats that they mention are secondary. You have health, damage, armor, focus, resistance, crit chance, crit damage, block chance, and block mitigation are all percent values. And then speed is going to be a flat value. Now, their note here about speed, which is why I saved my note about speed, Their intent with Glyphs is to give players agency over their collection by allowing them to customize their gameplay. Speed is an integral part of the gameplay and thereby an important piece of the puzzle. The values of speed secondaries in the system will allow players to change the order of units in combat, but are not so high that it will allow units to lap others on the battlefield, which is a big problem in their other game, Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, that we're showing the mods from. We are well aware of power that comes from changing speed and ever cautious with the balancing implications thereof. We will continue to monitor and adjust these changes as time progresses, basically. And something very important to realize too, they do not include speed as a primary stat, which is where the largest stat bonuses came from in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, was from having speed as a primary stat. And we'll flip back over just to show you exactly what we're talking about here. So if we're looking at this mod, okay, it's got 5 speed in the secondary slot. That's, if I had 5 speed on each, that's 30 speed. Now that's kind of meaningful, but it's not really jumping the gun. It's not making this character 5 times faster. It's not 300 speed, which is something you can do in this game. But the reason you can ramp it so high is because you have speed up here as a primary stat. And by the time you get this mod maxed out, which I'm halfway to, it's going to have about 60 speed. And if you have a bunch of speed primaries plus these speed bonuses from their set bonuses, speed can get out of hand for certain characters very quickly. And their goal with only having speed as the secondary stat is to make it so that you can affect the turn order of your characters without making speed a super busted mechanic. And again, when this levels up in this game, it's additive. And it's the same way in Lord of the Rings Heroes of Middle-earth. When you upgrade speed, it's not going to multiply your speed by 5 or 50%. It's going to give you plus 5 speed. All right, it's a very manageable number that's easy to figure out the math on when it comes to turn order, especially when you're worried about playing other teams. And then we're going to leave it on this screen. We're going to go back to our glyphs real quick and continue that discussion. Now, we're almost to the end. We're almost through all of the major information. Now, glyphs can be leveled up, just like mods in other games if you're familiar. And each glyph has a level that dictates the power and visuals of that glyph. The primary stat of a glyph is directly increased with glyph level. Secondary stats are added as the glyph reaches specific levels. But once applied, each stack of a secondary stat will not change. There is a maximum of 4 different slots per glyph. After revealing all of these types, additional rolls will be applied to one of them revealed. Refer to the chart below. So if we look at the chart below, just a quick summary here. You've got, it's a 10-level system, okay? Levels 1 through 5, right, are going to give you your stat increase for your primary stat. Levels 2 through 5 are going to reveal secondary stats. So by level 5, you're going to have access to seeing all of your secondary stats on that glyph, and you'll know whether or not you want to keep building it or you want to scrap it and sell it and get your gold back for something else, okay? Now, that's also, they stay a stone visual, and then once you get them to level 6, you get a stat increase, no secondary, but they change appearance, and once they're gilded, you're going level 7 to 10, and you're getting additional rolls to your secondary stats, as well as, of course, every level giving you a major stat increase. Now, upgrading glyphs to level 5 only requires gold. For level 6 and above, a new component called spells are required in addition to gold. Spells can be obtained via guild raids and rewards, as in supply shop and many other places, and we're going to review that at the end here too, where to find all this stuff. There's 3 initial types: enchantment, illusion, and sorcery. We don't really know what each one's going to be yet, but if I had to guess, this is like your basic, your intermediate, and your higher tier leveling mechanic. Various amounts of these above spells will be needed to upgrade your glyphs, with the cost increasing with the level of a glyph. Right, makes sense. Finally, and this is important, glyphs have a gear tier requirement in order to reach their full potential. This means that if a glyph is level 2, it will require gear tier 2, level 3 requires gear tier level 3, and so on to get that glyph's primary stat. If a character's gear tier is lower than the requirement, that character can still equip it, which is huge, but the primary stat on the glyph will be clamped to the equivalent of the highest glyph level that matches their gear tier requirement. Okay, so basically what this is saying, and this is a huge improvement over most games, because most games, the mod system is either very generic, or if it's very customizable, they lock, like once you upgrade a glyph to a certain level, you can't put it on a lower level character, period. So the fact that say you have a mod set that you want to use on a new character, but they're very low level still, you can still use those mods. But if it's a level 10 set and your character's not gear 10, say they're gear 6, you're going to get the bonuses as if those mods were at gear 6. Okay, so that's huge. That's the ability to move those around so that you can make strategic plays, and it doesn't necessarily hamper your ability to use your inventory of mods is super, super cool. I can't stress that enough. That's going to make modding and building cool characters a lot easier in the inception of this, because you can have preset loadouts and just kind of set things up on your geared characters the way you want them, which is pretty neat. Finding and managing glyphs. They can be found on normal and hard modes in the Light and Shadow campaign. Glyphs and spells can also be found as rewards from the Guild Raid, aka Mines of Moria, as well as purchased from the supplies shop or the cash for stuff store. There's a limit to how many glyphs you can carry at any given time. If you find yourself having an excess of glyphs, you can sell them for gold. The higher the glyph level, the more gold you'll get for the glyph. However, spells will not be refunded. And as a last note, in order to help players managing their glyphs, players will be able to set favorite sets, which I alluded to already, on a per character basis. So you can set up a preset thing for Strider or your Hobbits or your Haradrim, and you can select that and equip it easily. Any favorite sets will appear at the top of the set list for that character, okay? Now, their parting thoughts here, we're looking for this to come later this month. So in the coming month, so that's somewhere between now and, let's say, December 9th. Let's be generous, right? Let's give them a full month. I have a feeling it's going to be much, much sooner than that, that we can look forward to seeing this. So some things to just things to note that they don't really come out and say in this top part that is, the rest of this that's worth noting. This is another drain on your energy, right? So in addition to now farming character shards, you're also going to have to worry about farming glyphs. Now, this is probably the only part about this I don't like. They tried this apparently at the inception of Galaxy of Heroes. I wasn't there for that, but it was so negatively received that they ended up building them their own campaign. Now, I know it's probably still too early in the life cycle of glyphs to have a large, expansive campaign. Let's be honest, though. If you've played other mobile games, those campaigns they're just throwaway stuff, right? They're throwaways so you can get the materials you're looking for, and that's all there is to them. They don't need to have a crazy story. They don't need to be crazy difficult. They're there to farm, a little level check, make sure you're, okay, hey, they tried a little bit, or they're over-leveled, and you get your thing. This is going to require you to use more of your daily refresh stuff on glyphs, and is going to take away a little bit from your daily farms for characters. So I would recommend, if you're finishing up a farm, finish up your farms, maybe start banking up some gems or crystals so that you can do some more refreshes when they finally do drop this. But I can't stress enough that this is going to be a very integral part of the gameplay. This is going to be what wins and loses arena tiers. This is going to be make or break when they introduce multi-squad PvP, and this is also going to make your raid experience with your clan so much easier. I can't stress that enough. This is going to be a great way for you to fine-tune your teams to make sure that they're hitting those high damages on the raid nodes that you want. So this is also going to help a lot of clans or guilds reach that next chapter. So that's very exciting. Other things, we're going to find them. I imagine these are going to be sold for the most part. It says we can find spells. Glyphs are pretty much everywhere included, right? You can get them on the normal hard nodes. You can get them in the raid. You can get them in the supply store. You can get them in the cash store. However, with spells, they're only available as raid rewards. They're going to be somehow incorporated into the supply store, and they're only going to be in the cash to play store. So you're not going to be able to farm spells on the nodes while you're hunting for glyphs, which again, they might change that. They might switch that around. I understand them wanting to try the simpler method before building out a whole new mode or campaign, but it just sucks that you're pulling away from so many other avenues of advancing your roster. That said, spells, it's probably going to be similar to the purple essences and the blue essences as far as rarity, if I had to guess. They don't cost a lot, but you're only going to have a few opportunities to grab them every day. And then I imagine that the higher up the spell, the more it's going to cost, the less likely it's going to come around, with probably, this is maybe these are super available. Maybe these are like your blue essence, these enchantment ones, and then the sorcery ones are going to be like your purple essence, where You're only really be able to exchange them for gems, and these will probably be needed for at least levels 8, 9, and 10, if not higher. We don't have the specifics yet, but something to keep in mind. Maybe start sacking away some of your crystals for that, or some of your extra energy. Just kind of keep that in the back of your mind to, start preparing to farm that stuff. Now, I'm thinking that's pretty much it. I think I hit all of my talking points with you all. So just as a general review, too long didn't watch, right? Skip to the end. Glyphs are specific ways to mod your characters. You can equip 6 glyphs to a character. That will give them set bonuses depending on the combination of major or minor glyphs you use, and those set bonuses are going to make impactful changes to your characters and teams in the different events in the game, such as Arena and the Raids, which are right now the 2 most important game modes to build for. That being said, later on this week on the channel, we're going to have some videos covering, maybe some theory crafting on the different raid sets, talking about what teams certain synergies can work for and certain characters can work for. I already have a bunch of ideas going through my mind, and I'm sure all of you do too. So that being said, we're here at the end of the video. Thank you all for stopping by and watching. Checking out this breaking news, this brand new progression system in Galaxy of Heroes, which actually looks pretty exciting, with the exception of needing more basic campaign energy. However, I think it's very promising overall. It seems very well balanced. They've had lots of experience with this from Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and I'm generally optimistic. I think this is going to be a vast improvement for the game. A lot of people are going to be able to capitalize on understanding this and using it to the best of their ability. So that being said, we are almost out. Just a few things. If you had fun, if you liked hanging out with this video today and learning from me, please make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're so inclined. That's always helpful. I try to put out a video a week. Sometimes it goes a little longer. Sometimes I do a little more. But I try to keep it focused on Lord of the Rings, Heroes of Middle-earth, and the other mobile games I'm playing, so hopefully all the information I'll be sharing with you will be relevant. Also, please in the comments, drop some of your basic suggestions, things you've popped to your mind. I had certain teams that came to my mind when I was thinking about certain glyph sets. Drop what ones you think, and maybe we'll feature your comment in our next video talking about glyph strategy. Also, feel free to check us out on Twitch. We got a Discord, both are linked down the page. So with that being said, we have a fun sign off here on the channel. Long days and pleasant nights, and let's talk about glyphs more in the next one.